Johnny Depp had a $650 million fortune and the world at his feet, until one specific, overlooked mistake destroyed everything. Most people think his downfall was the trial, but the real career-ending error happened years before the cameras even started rolling. Imagine generating more wealth than entire small nations will see in a decade, only to wake up one morning and discover that you are not only completely broke, but actually over $100 million in debt to the government. This is not just a story about a Hollywood superstar losing his grip on reality. It is a masterclass in how easy it is to build an empire on a foundation of sand, and why the ultimate threat to your success is almost never your competition, but the silent erosion of your own executive control. To truly understand how a global icon ends up in this financial and professional abyss, we have to look past the tabloid headlines and dive deep into the psychology of extreme success. At the peak of his career, Johnny Depp was the undisputed king of Hollywood. His portrayal of Captain Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise did not just make him a household name, it made him a billion-dollar asset to Disney. Every studio in the world wanted him, and they were willing to pay unprecedented sums to get him. He was earning up to $20 million per film, plus massive back-end percentages that guaranteed a continuous, staggering flow of capital. On the outside, it looked like an indestructible fortress. He had a private island in the Bahamas, a massive chateau in the south of France, 5 penthouses in Los Angeles, and an entourage of 40 full-time employees. But inside this fortress, a quiet rot was setting in. The illusion of invincibility is a dangerous drug. When you are constantly surrounded by people who say yes, and when the money is flowing in faster than you can possibly count it, your brain undergoes a subtle but profound shift. You begin to believe that the systems keeping you afloat are self-sustaining. You assume that because you are world-class at your craft, the infrastructure supporting your craft is equally flawless. This is the exact moment the trap is laid. We see this not just in Hollywood, but in business, in technology, and in personal career development. The moment you achieve high levels of performance, your attention naturally shifts away from the operational details and toward the creative or strategic horizon. You stop looking at the ledger because you are too busy looking at the crown. This brings us to the first major phase of Johnny's downfall: the total abdication of financial and operational authority. For nearly 2 decades, Depp entrusted his entire financial empire to a firm called the Management Group, run by Joel and Robert Mandel. He paid them 5% of his gross income to handle everything. When I say everything, I mean they paid his taxes, managed his properties, handled his payroll, and structured his investments. On paper, this sounds like a perfectly logical move. After all, why should a world-class artist spend his days reviewing tax returns, negotiating insurance premiums, or auditing utility bills? He outsourced it. But here is where the critical mistake occurred. Johnny did not just outsource the labor, he outsourced the accountability. There is a massive, structurally dangerous difference between delegation and abdication. When you delegate, you assign a task to someone while retaining the ultimate responsibility and maintaining regular checkpoints to verify their work. When you abdicate, you hand over the keys to the castle, close your eyes, and hope for the best. Over a 17-year period, Depp spent money at an astronomical rate. His monthly burn rate was reported to be around $2 million. This included $300,000 a month on staff, $150,000 on security, $200,000 on private jet travel, and $30,000 just on importing vintage wines. He spent $75 million acquiring and furnishing 14 different residences. He even spent $3 million to blast the ashes of his late friend, the gonzo journalist Hunter S. Thompson, out of a specially constructed cannon. When his managers warned him that his spending was unsustainable and that he was running out of liquid cash, Depp allegedly refused to cut back. He claimed that he was being kept in the dark about the true state of his finances, while the managers claimed they repeatedly pleaded with him to curb his lifestyle. This mismatch of reality created a perfect storm. Because Depp had completely removed himself from the financial feedback loop, he had no visceral understanding of his financial limits. He was operating in a fantasy world where the money tap would never run dry, while behind the scenes, high-interest loans were being taken out just to keep the lights on and the taxes unpaid. But wait, here is the twist that most people completely miss. What if the managers didn't actually steal the money in the way Depp claimed? What if the most terrifying part of this entire story is that it was all completely legal, signed off by Depp himself while he was in a state of professional hibernation? When the lawsuits were finally settled in 2018, the public was left with a chilling realization. This was not a classic case of simple embezzlement. It was a case of systemic, mutually assured destruction, where both sides pointing fingers were actually telling the truth. The system failed because the architecture of trust was fundamentally broken from day one. And this exact same blind spot is operating in your life right now, waiting to derail your career the moment you stop paying attention. Let us dissect the cognitive psychology of why we fall into this trap, because it is not unique to eccentric movie stars. Psychologists call this phenomenon responsibility diffusion. When you hire an expert, whether it is a financial advisor, a marketing agency, a fitness coach, or a business partner, your brain naturally seeks to reduce its cognitive load. You tell yourself, they are the professionals, so I don't need to worry about this anymore. This is a highly efficient evolutionary trait designed to save mental energy. However, in the modern professional landscape, it is a fatal flaw. When you completely disconnect from the core metrics of your life or business, you lose your intuitive grasp of reality. You become highly susceptible to delegation dysmorphia, a state where you misinterpret reports, overlook red flags, and accept vague explanations because digging deeper would require too much effort or cause too much emotional discomfort. In Johnny Depp's case, this played out over nearly 2 decades. He was presented with financial statements, but he did not read them. He signed documents, but he did not analyze them. He accepted the lifestyle funding without questioning where the cash was actually coming from. Why? Because looking at the cold, hard numbers would have forced him to make difficult choices. It would have forced him to downsize, to say no to family members who were relying on his generosity, and to perhaps take roles he did not want just for the paycheck. Avoidance is a highly comforting short-term strategy, but it is a catastrophic long-term plan. When you abdicate your authority, you create a power vacuum. And in any ecosystem, a power vacuum will always be filled by someone else's agenda. In business, if you do not manage your managers, they will inevitably manage you in a way that prioritizes their security, their fees, and their convenience over your long-term wealth and reputation. This is why we see founders get pushed out of their own startups, why successful creators lose the rights to their own intellectual property, and why world-class athletes find themselves broke within 5 years of retirement. They built the engine, but they let someone else drive the car without checking the oil. So how do you avoid this trap in your own life and career, even if you are not managing a $65 million empire? You must implement what is known as a trust architecture. This is a rigorous, systematic framework designed to balance delegation with strict, uncompromised oversight. First, you must establish the rule of 2 eyes. Never allow the person who manages your money or operations to also be the one who audits them. In Johnny Depp's case, the same firm was responsible for spending his money, paying his taxes, and reporting on his financial health. This is a classic conflict of interest. To protect yourself, you must always hire an independent third-party auditor whose sole job is to review the work of your primary operators. If you have a marketing agency running your ads, hire an independent consultant to audit their performance metrics twice a year. If you have a financial advisor, have a separate accountant review your tax filings and asset allocations. This creates a system of checks and balances where no single entity can hide their mistakes or misconduct. Second, you must practice active oversight through the 80-20 rule of management. You do not need to know how to do every single job in your organization, but you must understand the key performance indicators that drive success. Identify the 3 most critical metrics in your career, business, or finances and review them personally at least once a month. For your finances, this might be your net savings rate, your debt-to-income ratio, and your monthly burn rate. For your career, it might be your client retention rate, your project delivery timelines, and your skill acquisition hours. By keeping your eyes firmly on these core metrics, you maintain your operational intuition. You will spot anomalies and red flags long before they turn into existential crises. Third, you must maintain ultimate veto power. Never sign a contract, authorize a major expense, or make a significant career pivot based solely on the recommendation of an advisor without thoroughly understanding the terms yourself. If an advisor cannot explain a strategy to you in simple, jargon-free language that a 10-year-old can understand, it means they either do not understand it themselves or they are hiding something. Do not let your ego or your desire to appear polite prevent you from asking the uncomfortable, basic questions. To see the power of this trust architecture in action, we only need to compare Johnny Depp's trajectory with other prominent figures who faced similar crossroads. Consider Nicolas Cage, who earned over $150 million and famously blew his fortune on dinosaur skulls, rare comic books, and castles, finding himself in deep financial ruin and forced to take almost any acting role to pay off the IRS. Cage fell into the exact same abdication trap, trusting advisors blindly until the tax bills became unpayable. Now contrast this with an actor like George Clooney. Clooney is not just a highly paid actor. He is an incredibly savvy businessman. When he co-founded Casamigos Tequila, he did not just put his name on the bottle and walk away. He was deeply involved in the operational strategy, the brand positioning, and the financial structures. When the company was sold to Diageo for up to $1 billion, Clooney's active oversight ensured that he retained maximum equity and control over the deal. Similarly, look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. From the very beginning of his career in America, long before he was a movie star, Schwarzenegger refused to rely solely on his acting income. He actively invested in real estate, physically managing his properties, collecting rents, and learning the tax laws. He understood that relying on Hollywood executives or managers to secure his future was a losing strategy. By maintaining absolute personal control over his business ventures, he built an independent financial empire that gave him the freedom to choose his creative projects and career moves entirely on his own terms. The ultimate lesson of Johnny Depp's cautionary tale is that your talent can make you rich, but only your systems can keep you successful. No matter how much money you make, how high you climb in your organization, or how brilliant you are at your specific craft, you cannot outsource your responsibility as the ultimate protector of your life and legacy. The moment you close your eyes and hand over complete control to someone else, you are no longer the captain of your ship. You are simply a passenger waiting for a storm. If you want to build a truly bulletproof career and secure your financial future, you have to master the delicate art of trusting others while verifying everything. If you found this breakdown valuable and want to learn how to master the psychology of wealth and professional self-preservation, you need to watch our next video, where we deconstruct the hidden structural traps that destroy most highly paid professionals before they even realize what is happening. Click the video on your screen right now to discover how to keep what you earn and build an indestructible career.